Hi, this is Coach Dave. Welcome to Where or When. And very recently we had the opportunity to interview a fellow named Richard Champagne, who was a World War II naval veteran. And his interview was so intriguing that we decided to make two shows out of it. So this is the first installment of our series with Mr. Richard Champagne. We have some living history with us today. We have Mr. Richard Champagne. And does he have stories to tell you folks? You're probably not going to hear me say 3 words the whole rest of the day, and that's good because he has interesting stories. Mr. Champagne, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
What I'd like to do is just get a little back of your background before we even talk about why you're here. And were you born in North Attleboro?
I've been in North Attleboro 39 years this year.
Okay.
On my second marriage, I married a lady by the name of Constance Champagne. We had a great life together. Before that, of course, I came from Rhode Island, from West Warwick, and then I had moved out to Coventry, and I built a summer camp there, and all the kids had a great time learning how to swim and water ski, stuff like that, and it was a great time. I was there for 13 years before I moved up here. Before I went in the Navy, I had started working in a lace mill in West Warwick on East Main Street, and I was working with my father. He was my teacher, and that was for 3 years. So I already had just about 1 year done when I had to go into World War II by joining the United States Navy.
Well, we're playing some music today from the 1940s and especially around the World War II era. And the first song we're going to do is written in 1940. It came from a play. Benny Goodman was the first person to record this song with his orchestra. It's called How High the Moon. So here we go.
Had to go into World War II by joining the United States Navy in Providence, Rhode Island, and
that's the main reason why we're here today.
Yes,
because I was not aware that Mr. Champagne has all kinds of great stories. I'm sure some heroic, some sad, that he's going to tell us about today. Now, you were on the Cleveland-class light cruiser Santa Fe, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, can you tell us what a light cruiser is and what it did?
A light cruiser is, these particular cruisers, they built 17 of them that earned at least 1 battle star. Of course, the first 12, they garnered almost 14 stars. They were basically anti-aircraft cruisers for the carriers when we made airstrikes.
Films of Admiral William F. Halsey's Third Fleet grouping at an advanced Pacific base prior to departure for the shores of Japan. This aerial panorama shows only a portion of the most powerful striking force ever assembled as one unit in the Pacific.
To tell you about what a formation looks like to protect us, we had something like 14 destroyers in the outer circle because they had the sound gear for the submarines if there were going to be any submarines around. And inside of that would be the cruisers, maybe 3 or 4. And if we had a battleship, I think we were very lucky. Inside of that circle is the 4 carriers. You've got 2 large CVs, and you have 2 small converted cruiser hulls into the carrier that carried about 50 planes, I guess. I think the big carriers carried almost 100. And we were anti-aircraft protectors for them if any planes came in, you know, with the destroyers in the battleship. These ships could all do 30 knots. For when the carriers were launching, we were in the wind and we were doing 30 knots, all ships. And when they were recovering, it was the same arrangement. You had to go into the wind to get the planes back on the carriers, you know. And
now, I know you told me that there's almost 1,300 crewmen on each one of these. Now, being wartime, did you always have a full complement in your crew, or?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was always about 1,300 men.
The ship was 610 feet long.
610 feet long, and the beam was 65 foot beam. That's the width.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And we had 4 propellers that drove us. We could do flank speed. We could do almost 34 knots. And that's moving pretty good.
Another song from the 1940s, this one written in 1946. A fellow named Frank Sinatra, who you may or may not have heard of, actually sang this at the end of his first annual retirement. Actually, he came back 2 years later. Now, I'm not sure if he sang it at the end of the second one, but pretty valid, called Angel Eyes.
Now, what was your actual job on the ship?
On the ship, I started, well, let me tell you about the first 5 divisions, and the 6 divisions was the Marines. We had 60 Marines on the ship.
Okay.
And the first 5, and of course with the Marine Division, there's 6. There were, these are the gunners. These men operate the guns. The 1st Division has turret 1 and 2. The 2nd Division has turret 3 and 4. These are 3 guns to a turret, 6-inch 47s, the caliber. And then we've got 6 twin 5-inch 38 anti-aircraft guns also, twin mounts. We've got 6 of those. There's 1 behind turret 2, and there's 1 on either side of the bridge, and there's another 2, and they call it air aft, on either side of that, and then there's 1 more before turret 3. And that takes care of those guns. And then, of course, there's the 40 millimeters, and there's the 20 millimeters. And the 20 millimeter guns, we had 2 up on the bow, 2 behind turret 2, 6 amidships, port side and starboard side, 3 guns each. And before turret 3, we got 2 more, and there's 2 more on the stern. And the 40 millimeter guns, the 2 quad mounts are on either side of the bridge. These are 4-gun machines, and the twin mounts, there's 2 on the quarterdeck, which is amidships, and it's on the port and starboard side. And then there's two more twins in air aft, and that completes the arsenal of the guns that we have. And these men train every day. Every day we trained every day. The only day of the week that we didn't train, if we were not at battle stations, you had the day off. The day was yours to take care of yourself and your clothes, and and write letters at home.
Okay, you're watching Where It Went. We're here with Mr. Richard Champagne, but we're going to take a quick break now, so don't go away.
Did you know you could have your very own TV show? North TV holds TV production workshops that will allow you to come in and learn what goes on behind the camera, in front of the camera, and everything else you'll need to produce a show. Learn from North TV Access Coordinator Brett Poirier as he takes you through the workshop and helps you every step of the way to ensure your show goes from development to production and into your home. North TV Production Workshops with Access Coordinator Brett Poirier. Produce your own TV show.
What do North Attleboro residents think of international, national, state, and town issues? Join Peter Gay for Up for Discussion, featuring members of local media, town officials, and people like you. Based on HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher and Hannity on the Fox News Network, Up for Discussion tackles the topics making headlines. Up for Discussion every month on North TV's community and government channels, Comcast channels 15 and 98, and Verizon channels 23 and 24.
Do you like old black and white B movies? How about cheesy special effects? What about bad dialogue?
We're going to kill you, Morgan.
Well, if that's your cup of tea, then you're not alone. Join me, John O'Neill, right here on North TV for Fright Night, where we'll delve into some of the creepiest and campiest films from Hollywood's golden age. So, if monsters, mayhem, and malarkey are your bag, then put on your Creature Double Feature t-shirt and join me, John O'Neill, for Fright Night. You'll be glad you did.
Hey food fans, tonight's special is a new show on North TV that brings you, the viewer, behind the scenes of your favorite restaurants here in town. Watch as I try each local spot in town, one episode at a time. We talk to the owner, the chef, and even get to try some of the food on the menu. Tune in to tonight's special before your next night out. Tonight's special with host Brett Poirier on North TV's community channel, Comcast 15 and Verizon 20.
How much do you know about North Attleboro town government? Whether the answer is very little or a great deal, Inside Town Government helps you learn more about your government, town departments, services, and more. Join me, Jared Ware, as I sit down each month with representatives from town departments, Inside Town Government on North TV's Community and Government channels, Comcast Channel 15 and 98, and Verizon Channels 23 and 24. North TV, bringing the community and town government into your home.
How much provision and ammo could you take for, what's the duration that you could stay out at one time?
Well, we were good for, we could fire for probably 2 days solid before we were out of ammunition. But food was good for maybe 2 months.
Wow.
And
so you could go out for a 2 months period and not have to come in and restock.
When we took the Philippines, when we started that, we were out there for over 3 months, and we refueled at, say, re-ammunition at, say, food, you know, we had to get everything. And until we went back to an atoll that they called Ulithi. And this is located south of the Mariana Islands out there in the Pacific. And that's where we basically refurbished the ship. Every time we got done with whatever island we decided that they wanted to take or airstrike, you know. We were with the carriers on the airstrikes. On the bombardments, we left the carriers and we went to the islands, and we did the shooting there. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, you told me a real quick story a little while back that you actually got hit with a torpedo.
Oh, yes.
Can you tell us that story?
Well, we were down in the Guadalcanal area. We were down there to support the Bougainville assault, and we in Pearl Harbor we had loaded up extra food, ammunition, everything that you could think of, and we went down there, and we pulled into Tulagi Harbor, and each cruiser picked a cruiser down there, and we tied up to it, and we gave them the food and the ammunition that they needed. And the next morning is when we went out to support the troops going into Bougainville, and that night we had something like a 30-plane air attack, and every time that you destroyed one, it would just explode, a big ball of fire. So out of the 30 planes, I think they shot down over 25, and the second ship in our formation, the Birmingham, she took a bomb, and she also got hit with a torpedo. And the Santa Fe got hit with a torpedo at the bow that did not explode, and that was at turret 1. So you can imagine if that had exploded, what would have happened to turret 1 and the bow.
Now, I have a question about that. When the torpedo hits, does it bounce off? Does it go right into the hull?
When it hit, it pushed the ship to the right, to starboard side. It pushed us.
Yeah.
We were like by vertical, and we rolled over about halfway.
Okay.
Then she came back, and she was shaking, and that took care of that. And of course,
now, this may sound like
that was an all-time thing, but then we run into a rain squall that night. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and the rain squall got us out of the fight.
Oh, wow.
You know, yeah. So the very next day, we just patrolled there, and then we, after they had established themselves on Bougainville, we were there no more than 3 days. Then we journeyed back up to the Gilbert Islands, and that's when we took Tarawa, and we went up there and bombarded for almost a whole day, and the troops went in, and it was not an easy fight because the tides were wrong. They had figured the tides to be low, they were high, you know.
Yeah. This song was written in 1940 by a young Mexican girl, 16-year-old girl named Consuelo Velasquez. And it was was a big hit. It's become a jazz classic. You even hear it today every once in a while. And the interesting thing is she was 16 years old. The name of the song is Besame Mucho, and it either means love me much or kiss me much, and she had to admit that she'd never been kissed, but she wrote the song.
Were you on the ship for the entire war?
Yeah. I went on here on October. Where were we? I enlisted 10/17, and I had 21 days boot camp. I had a 7-day leave. Went back to Newport, picked up my hammock and my sea bag, got on a train. We journeyed over to Philadelphia, and had a building to go into to sleep overnight. The next morning, we bussed down to the dock, and we went aboard the Santa Fe, and they took my hammock away. And but I kept my sea bag. Some of my sea bag I kept. We had the ship was really luxury. Really, we had nice bunks, and we had our lockers for our clothes, and we had a large locker for our pea coats. You know, you could put them in a locker, and they were something. I'll tell you, the Navy went first class. In World War II, the Navy went first class. The ships, all the ships, they had everything. You know, they had good food. You had showers every day. I mean, you know, compared to what the soldiers had, they were sleeping in the mud.
Sure.
You know, yeah. Different kind of a war, but you know, but you always were thinking that you might get hit wherever you were, especially when you were making a strike. I mean, at that time, we'd be at battle stations, and you would be at battle stations sometimes maybe 1 or 2 or 3 days. You know, you stayed there. Of course, if you had to do any toilet work, we would relieve one another, you know.
Sure, sure.
But the ship was always ready to fire, and when it wasn't, we had a condition 3, which meant that it was half ready to shoot. And these men were standing watch. They would make observation of the ocean, watching out for torpedoes, watching out for other planes, Japanese planes that would be coming in. And we had radar. The radar was very, very good, and it told us where they were, when they were coming, what time they'd be there, and you know, all that. It was a fantastic job, and the captains and the admirals, these men were World War I students, basically. And Captain Berkey was our first captain, and he was great. I mean, he was 40 years old. I'm 18. I mean, he's like your father,
Sure,
you know.
sure.
And we had a great time with him. He was a great gentleman. And whenever we were going to go into battle, he'd get on the PA system, and he'd talk to us. And at the end, he'd just say your prayers, do your job. That's all.